Here we are with my old friend, colleague, and Hall of Famer Steve Flink, talking about ladies in Australia, ladies in Melbourne. I don't know if you agree that even if maybe not many people expected Swiatek lose already in the last 16 round, we saw probably one of the best ladies finals in the recent slams, because Sabalenka and Rybakina played a good tennis with only few breaks, which normally is something that happens in the men's tournament, but not so often in the women's tournament. And so we couldn't have a much better final. What do you think? And we probably, I don't know, both Sabalenka, who is now number 2 in the world, Rybakina, who is number 10, but if he had 2,000 points more, would be in the top 5. Is a good combination.
Ubaldo, I'm very disappointed in you.
Why?
Because you've taken all the words right out of my mouth. You've expressed. No, seriously, I am in complete agreement with what you just said. It was a wonderful final for the reasons that you cited. It was largely a servers contest, because in the first set, they did have 3 breaks, and finally, when Sabalenka lost her serve at 4-all, Rybakina then served out the set. So, but then after that, Sabalenka broke once in the second, broke once in the third. She never lost her serve again. She served 17 aces, only 7 doubles, which is very good for her. And the standard was high. The points were aggressively played. They were both very good off the ground. Sabalenka was the better player from the backcourt. But I couldn't agree more, because I thought that it was a standout final when you look back over the last couple of years in women's finals at majors, because of the way it was played, because it was so close. I'm very encouraged. And Rybakina proved, Ubaldo, that there was no fluke that she won Wimbledon to get to the finals here. Sabalenka finally came through, and she's calmer now. There's much more composure. Even when she served a double fault on match point in the last game, she didn't get too ruffled. She didn't get, she kept her concentration. She kept her mind on what she was doing. She took a deep breath and got on with it, and won a 4-deuce game to close it out. So I think she's improving as a competitor. She's improving as a player. Rybakina has a good temperament. She has one of the best first serves in women's tennis, and maybe needs to improve the second serve a bit. The kick serve sits up, and the better players can take advantage of that. And she can get a little shaky off the ground. But by being in 2 major finals over the last year and winning one of them, I'm very encouraged about her. And then Sabalenka, who up until now seemed kind of frantic at times, in the big matches, and just too hyper, she was overexcited on the big occasions. That's over now too. And she has taken it's a turning point in her career, Ubaldo, don't you think? I'm not saying that she's going to win every major now, but she'll contend, she'll win more of them, and she believes in herself now more than she did in the past.
Yes. I had seen Sabalenka losing Roland Garros versus Camila Giorgi, making so many double faults, playing almost with no head, I would say, without offending her. I mean, she was really, changing too many nerves, no control at all. And now, as you said, to win finally a major after she had lost 3 semifinals in different slams, should give her some confidence, trust on herself, and probably also she can do better on the second serve, because even if she made 7 double faults, she doesn't have almost any sort of lift or kick on the second serve, which would save her a lot of double faults. So you have to cross the net, sending the ball a little higher than the net, while she's only sitting too flat.
But it's not as bad as it was. You're right. There's still room for improvement. And she did start the match with a double fault in the first point, and then had a shaky moments in between and a double fault on match point. But still, for 3 sets, for 3 relatively long sets to have only 7 doubles. I think we're going to see her get to the point where she can keep that down to 3 or 4 in a 3-set match too, and that's not bad considering the aces, to have 17 aces to balance it out. Yeah, she could develop a heavier kick on her second serve, but she knows how to slice it as well. And I feel like she's made big progress. I mean, she was serving 20 double faults a match last year. Yeah. Sometimes having to hit underhanded second serve, she was so worried about her ability.
Yeah, I think if I counted, if I remember well, she made something like 428 double faults in the whole year, which was as average 8 per match. But some matches were maybe a 6-2, 6-1. So I mean, in 8, so she was always starting from low 15 in each time she was.
That's true, but I think those days are over, Ubaldo. I don't think we're going to ever see anything like that from her again. And she's conquered it, and she'll continue to improve. And then the rest of her game. I mean, I thought one of the separating factors between her and Rybakina is that she defends better, and she's just a better shot maker from the baseline. She can do more things off both sides than Rybakina can do. It was more limited, and so I feel like Sabalenka is a good all-around player, and she's good overhead, and she knows how to volley, and I think she's a fairly complete player. There's a ways to go, but she's getting there. Yeah.
Perhaps since she's taking a lot of risks when she plays, maybe clay is probably the most dangerous surface, because on clay, if you don't win the points in the first 1, 2, 3, 4 strokes, then the more you try, the easier is that you miss. But as you said, she's very good in both sides, a very great forehand, a great backhand, while Rybakina's forehand is not the greatest. She's a little volatile.
It's not.
She's a little volatile on that side. Listen, tell me something. What was more disappointing for you, for an American point of view, the loss of Pegula or the loss of Coco Gauff?
I'd say pretty much even. I mean, Pegula finished. She had a great start to the year, and she had a win over Iga Swiatek, and a lot of people thought maybe she can do some damage here. And Coco, we keep waiting, but we must. It's understandable. She's still so young, and people forget that. They think she's 25 years old because we've been watching her play great tennis over the last 5 years. It's a little unfair. So I would say maybe in this case, I would say a little more disappointed about Pegula.
Yeah, but in terms of perspective, future potential, who do you see better between Pegula and Gauff?
I think Gauff long term, because I still think she's working very hard to improve. Her forehand is still not good enough, and the forehand and the second serve have been what holding her back. She's a very good first serve. She's got a great backhand. She has a good disposition on the court. She doesn't get too excited. She never gets too emotive. She's she keeps the highs and the lows under control, but it's that forehand that can get shaky that she continues to put a lot of effort into, and it's the second serve. And I feel like over the next 2 or 3 years, she's going to improve considerably. So I think the ceiling for her is greater at long term. But maybe this year, Pegula could be the better player this year. Wouldn't surprise me. But over the next 5 years, I think it will be Coco.
Okay. And if we talk about the other disappointments, one is Swiatek in a way. She lost to Rybakina 6-4, 6-4. And the other one is Jabeur, who lost from to Vondrousova 6-1, 5-7, 6-1. I mean, which is quite disappointing for someone who is seeded number 2.
Jabeur, well, we saw her. Yeah, it was disappointing because we saw her lose to Rybakina in the U.S. Open in the Wimbledon final, and then we saw her get to the U.S. Open final and lose to Swiatek. So I think we were hoping for more from her. I think she can be a little moody out there. She has so many pieces in her puzzle. I mean, she can do so many things. There's all this finesse, touch, good serve. She loves the drop shot. On certain days, if she's not inspired, then it happens like it did in Australia. So I'm not too worried about that. I think she'll turn it around later in the season. Swiatek, it's going to be interesting, Ubaldo. She won 37 straight matches last year leading up to Wimbledon. And she won her second French Open in the process. And then even though she lost early at Wimbledon, she came back and won the US Open. But I don't think we're going to see her be a dominant force. There's more major titles for sure, and she'll still be always at or near. She'll be in the top 3 or 4 for a long time because of her consistency. But I feel like Rybakina maybe beat her pretty comfortably. It was a pretty comfortable win for her, and I don't think that should be the case. And sometimes I think she relies too much on her defense. She's tried to add a lot of aggression to her game, which is what got her to the top. But somehow she's not as comfortable now, Ubaldo. I mean, she was so convincing in places like Indian Wells and Miami last year, and the French, and now I don't know. The rest of this year could be a little up and down. She might hold on to number 1, but I wouldn't be shocked if she ended the year 3 or 4 in the world. So I'm fascinated to see what she's going to do to respond to this, because the last really since Wimbledon, she rebounded at the U.S. Open, but didn't win the year-end championships, and now has started off the year with what was for her a shaky loss. So I'm a little concerned about her.
Yeah, well, I personally think that it's very difficult for a player who doesn't have on her forehand the best shot to win consistently. Because you may have the best backhand of all, but at the end, and Djokovic is showing. Djokovic has probably the best backhand in the world, but especially the one down the line, the return. But then at the end, if you consider what are his most winning points, they all come from the forehand, and the same reason why I think that Rybakina has a problem to get to number 1 place in the world, because also she plays much better on the backhand than on the forehand. And while Steffi Graf was able to win, even having let's say not the strongest backhand, but she had a great forehand. A player with not such a good forehand, is difficult to dominate, let's say, the whole field all the time.
I agree with you, Ubaldo. I did think that there were stages last year where Swiatek, her forehand had improved, where it was coming through for her, where she was hitting a lot of winners and trying to be more aggressive, not missing too much. That's not
sorry, but it was on clay, and on clay with the forehand she had more time.
No, but also not just on clay, Ubaldo. I think at the U.S. Open the forehand was very good as well. I would disagree slightly with that, but you're right. On clay it's at its best, where she has the time. But yes, the forehand is a key for all of them. Now, in Rybakina's case, she has one of the best serves, so she can compensate. She's able to win free points off her first serve. Swiatek's serve is a good serve, a very good serve, but not a great serve. So she doesn't get as much help from the serve. And so that it's a problem. And you mentioned Steffi, and of course, at least in Steffi's case, yes, the backhand was not a big weapon, but she keep that slice low and keep one biting slice backhand after another until she could get that chance to run around and hit that fearsome forehand, and she did that beautifully. But yes, Swiatek's forehand will be one of the keys. Is can she improve the forehand 10 to 20% over the next several years? She will need to.
Well, listen, thanks a lot, Steve. I think we went through the most interesting subjects, both in the men's field, the Australian Open. in the ladies. Let's give me just your final prediction. Who will win the Roland Garros on men, and who will win it in women?
Okay, I'll start with the women. I do think Swiatek, because it's her most comfortable surface, and she's won it 2 times already now. In the last 3 years, she won it twice. I like her chances to come back at Roland Garros. That's where I think she's going to be most comfortable. It's her best surface. You would think that I would pick Nadal to win his 15 French. I just don't know about how. We've seen him have so many struggles, and yet another injury in Australia when he lost to McDonald. So will he be healthy? If he's healthy, it's hard to bet against him again. But I think Djokovic is going to make another big push there. I think Djokovic will, and Alcaraz will. So I would still, at this point, give Nadal the edge if he's healthy, and that's a big if. What are your thoughts? Do you think that Rafa will be able to will be fit?
I think it's not anymore the same Rafa, personally, even if he's more fit. It's true that we haven't seen him fit in recent months. So since the second semester of last year, we haven't seen him ever really at his peak. So I think Djokovic will be the favorite at Roland Garros, even if there are 4 months or 3 months before. It's too early to say that. And as
Ubaldo, just a quick point about that. If you're right, and Rafa physically doesn't ever get back to what he was, and he's still struggling terribly with it, I would definitely make Djokovic the favorite. I also think if Djokovic is not allowed to play in Indian Wells and Miami because of the vaccine, if he's prohibited from playing, that will not work against him. He can have the time off would not hurt him, because he did play a couple of, he won Adelaide and he won the Australian Open, and a little break wouldn't hurt because he'd come back strong on the clay and be pretty fresh for Roland Garros.
They will be both playing in Monte Carlo, I guess.
yeah, but I'm just saying, if Djokovic missing a couple of those hardcore tournaments, I don't think will make much of a difference. So I think he will be very determined, and as we saw, he won his second French Open 2 years ago, and then he lost to Rafa in the quarterfinals last year. So it's still very hard to beat Djokovic at Roland-Garros as well. He's the second best clay court player in the world.
Sure. Okay, listen, thanks a lot. Thanks a lot to Steve Flink, my great friend, good friend, great colleague, Hall of Famer, and all the other compliments I will tell him privately. Ciao.
Ciao.